Hey everyone, Mark here. Today's video is going to look at reps, sets and rest schemes amongst other things that you should be using in your training to make sure that your program is guiding you towards the goals that you set for yourself. I'm going to go through it step by step. I'll use some examples and I'll break down what this information here means in a little bit more detail. So one of the first things let's look at, if you are looking to get stronger, God damn it. Take two. If you are looking to get stronger, then the rep range you're going to look at is between 1 and 5 reps. Now, let me make one thing perfectly clear. If you want to get stronger, you can totally get stronger between any of these rep ranges. But generally speaking, the lighter the load that you lift, the more time under tension your body can actually accumulate. So the chances are you're going to build more muscle and build more endurance with higher reps. So I'm not saying you can't get strong if you're using these rep ranges. What I am saying is that if you want to build real strength, that this rep range here is probably the one you're going to look at the most. Now, so between 1 and 5 reps, why is that? Because a weight that you can lift between 1 and 5 times is generally going to be between 85 and 100% of your 1 rep max. That's the weight you can lift for just 1 rep. Okay, so obviously if you're at 100%, you're only going to get 1 rep because that's the heaviest weight you can lift for 1 rep. You go to attempt a second rep, it's not going to come off the ground. If you're doing deadlift, it might not come back up if you're doing a squat or if you apply that to any other lift. If you're hitting 5 reps, again, you're probably looking at lifting somewhere between 85 and 87.5% of your 1 rep max, and you can get quite technical on it, but generally all you need to know is that a 1 rep max will be 100% and 5 will obviously be less than that depending on your own kind of training variables in terms of reps, sets and intensity. So let's look at sets. If you are looking at building strength, generally speaking, the reps and the sets will offset against each other. So let's just say you're doing 5 by 3. You could also do 6 by 1, right? So you could do 1 rep, 6 sets. Rub that out. Could you do 6 sets with 5 reps? Absolutely, but it's not something you might do initially. If you started off with 5 by 3, you might stick with the 5 reps, but add a set every week or 2 weeks, depending on how often you get to train, and gradually build up to it. Because adding a set can add a lot more volume to your workout. The next thing that you look at then is your rest. Why do we need between 2 and 5 minutes rest when you're lifting a weight that's this heavy, right, for this many reps? It's because the intensity that you lift at means that your body needs that much time to replenish its energy stores. So if you're doing 5 reps, your rest time might be closer to 2 minutes. Okay, if you're doing 1 rep, however, your rest time is more than likely going to be on the higher end. Now, obviously, your rest times can be less and less the more training experience that you have, or the more advanced of a lifter that you are. But generally speaking, for any of these sections, the higher or the lower your reps, the higher your rest should be within that category. Okay, the tempo between 1 and 5, the tempo should be explosive. In other words, let's take a deadlift for an example. When you have that bar on the ground, you're not going to lift it up slowly. You need to put a lot of effort into the ground, pushing the feet into the ground and driving the hips forward. It's not going to be a slow and steady lift. It has to be 100% intensity. So you're going to lift it off the ground as fast as you possibly can. The second one then that we look at is hypertrophy. Now, that's another fancy way of saying building muscle mass, okay? So hypertrophy. So for hypertrophy reps, we're going to look between 6 and 12 reps. And again, the reason I stated a little while earlier is if your reps are too high, you're not going to be able to spend as much time under tension. And I'll explain that when I talk about tempo in a moment. So because we're going between 6 and 12 reps, it generally means that the weight is lighter, the intensity is not as high as the explosiveness you need to do the lower reps in the strength category. So our rest time can be anywhere between 45 seconds and 2 minutes. Again, the lower end of your rest could be for the slightly higher reps, because the higher your reps, the lower your percentage of your 1RM. So let me explain that just in case you're getting confused. So if you do 12 reps for 2 sets, hoping that can be seen. So 12 by 2, you might only take 45 seconds rest. However, if you were doing 6 reps for 4 sets, which is kind of on the opposite end of the scale in terms of reps and sets, then you might take your 2 minutes rest. So you can see how we'll manipulate reps and sets and rest to ensure that we get adequate rest and that the training stimulus or the load that we're using is going to be appropriate for the reps that we use too. Get rid of that thing. These videos are edited as little as possible, so if I make mistakes, I apologise. The percentage 1RM, again, this is not something that the general population, if you're not competing in like weightlifting or powerlifting, that you really need to concern yourself with. A simple way of knowing if you are within the right percentiles is that for strength work, you don't want to leave any reps in the tank, right? Maybe 1. So maybe 1 rep in the tank. So let's just say you're doing 5 reps. You're using a weight that you may be able to lift a 1/6. However, if you're only aiming for 1 rep, 2 reps, or 3 reps perhaps, then you will leave 0 reps in the tank. So if you're doing a set of 3 reps, then that 3rd rep will be the last one you're able to lift off the ground. You're not even going to attempt it 4 because you know it's just not going to happen, okay? For hypertrophy, at this rep range, or 1RM range, then you're looking at leaving somewhere between 2 to 3 reps in the tank. 2 to 3 reps in the tank. Boom, boom, boom. Don't fall off the wall. And the reason for that is you want to leave energy reserves for the 2nd, 3rd or 4th set. You don't want to max out on your 1st set, not recover enough and get 12 reps on the 1st set, but the 12th one feels like the last one you could do. All of a sudden on the next set, the 10th one is the last one you can do because you either didn't give yourself enough recovery or you went too heavy on the 1st set in terms of the amount of reps you would leave in the tank. Another reason why we have slightly lighter loads for hypertrophy or for muscle building rep ranges is you want to do a slow eccentric, which is the lowering portion. So let's just say you're lifting a weight over your head. You press overhead, you want to come down over 1, 2, 3, up we go again. So the longer you have time under tension in this hypertrophy rep range, the more muscle breakdown that you'll have at a microscopic level, and therefore when you heal and recover, hopefully your muscles get bigger, right? Hypertrophy, muscle building, it's all coming together. So that is hypertrophy. The last one then I'm going to cover is endurance. So the ability of your muscles to repeat, I'm not even editing that out, to repeat, I've lost my train of thought now, to repeat an exercise repetitively for a prolonged period of time, okay? I can actually move this up there for dancing. So endurance would generally be for 12 reps plus, okay? Generally for people that might be involved in endurance sports, or they want to do a finisher, let's say for your arm muscles or for your calves or for your glutes, then you might use higher rep ranges just to give you a good burn or for less sets, okay? Sets again will be between 2 and 3. So if you're doing 12 reps, you might do 3 sets, okay? If you were hitting more than that, if you were hitting, let's say 20 reps, you might only do 2 sets, but your rest time is going to be less than 45 seconds. So if you were doing 20 by 2, you might only take 30 seconds rest. If you were doing 12 by 3, you might take close to 45. So again, if you manipulate the slightly lower reps for, or the slightly higher reps for longer rest, and the higher reps for less rest, because if you can do more, then you're not hitting an intensity that's so high that you need to take a long break. It's like going for a 1K jog or a 1K walk. You don't need to take a long break after that, and you could do another 1K jog or 1K walk because the intensity is quite low. However, if you went off and you decided you were going to sprint a kilometre and do it as fast as you can, well then, because the intensity was greater than what your walk would be, you need a lot more recovery time before you can repeat that same action for that same time again. I hope that makes sense. Again, the loads are going to be somewhere between 60 and 70%. And again, we're using this as a guide, right? Generally speaking, if you're going 12 plus, all you need to know is that you need to be able to hit those reps with the weight that you use. So if you say, oh, I'm going to do 12 reps of bicep curls, but you choose a 15 kg dumbbell, you get to your 3rd rep and you're struggling, then the weight is simply not appropriate and it's probably not within this range here. But this could also be body weight, okay? So don't forget, for the like of a squat, if your 1RM squat is 100 kg, then 100 kg is 100%. Okay, 60 kg would be 60 or 60% of your 1RM. So you should technically be able to, for 60 kg, you should be aiming for over 12 reps. And the last note then on tempo for your endurance is you want constant tension, right? A 1-to-1 tempo for concentric and eccentric, okay? So in other words, if you are doing a squat, we'll say for endurance purpose, you might spend 1 second down, 1 second up, or 2 down, 2 up. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So you're constantly moving that muscle through that same continuous motion. The exact same if you're looking to do a finisher on glute bridges to build up your butt muscles, then you might do those glute bridges where you drop to the ground, touch, drive, constantly contract, squeeze, and constantly working through that rep range. I hope this has made sense of the rep ranges for sets and rests and stuff for your own program and for your own goals, especially if you're working from home during lockdown and you're doing your own type of program for your own goals. So if you're looking to build muscle but you're only hitting reps between 1 and 5 at a relatively quite heavy weight, then you're probably not going to get the results that you want. Likewise, if you're looking at building real strength, like max strength, then working between the 6 to 12 rep range is probably not going to get you there. Likewise with your endurance rep ranges. The other thing to say is that, yes, you can absolutely combine these three. Well, none of my pens work. You can absolutely combine these three, right, into your own program. You might do, this pen just doesn't work. You could do your strength work first. Again, I'm going to get rid of this, just to create a little bit of space on my board. By all means, you could do your strength work first. Right, let's say you do deadlift. And you might be working on, let's say 5 reps by 3 sets. Then you might use the hypertrophy rep range, and sets and rest and tempos now for maybe 2 or 3 more supersets, which is how I like kind of to design a lot of the programs that I would use, for myself or with clients. So you might do a push and a pull, and you might do a squat movement pattern, but again, you might do 8 by 3, you might do 10 by 3, you might do 12 by 3, let's just say as an example. And then you might finish your endurance work with some isolation work. You could pick 2 or 3 exercises, you might do 15 by 2, and you might pick another isolation exercise, you might do 25 by 2. Again, depending on body parts. So of course you can use all these at different stages in your program, but just to make you aware that these things do exist, they do matter, and how you program your strength lifts, your hypertrophy and your endurance will matter in the context of your entire program. You want to get these guys done first because they're going to tax you the most. You'll do these guys second because you leave a little bit in the tank, and then these guys will be the last thing that you will do because they're the last little kind of burn, the least intense type of exercise that you might do on probably smaller muscle groups, and the lifts won't even be that complex. I hope this helps. If it does, please feel free to share the video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments wherever they may be on this video, and thank you very much for watching.